Good afternoon. Who's ready for some Kung Fu and family stories? Hi, thank you so much. Good afternoon, MOCA friends and our virtual guests. My name is Ifan Wu. I'm pronounced Tatum. I'm the Director of Programs and Chief of Staff at the Museum of Chinese in America. So, honoring AAPI Heritage Month, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to celebrate the launch of Dragon of Concrete Jungle, 美港潛龍, a captivating journey that chronicles the lives of Sifu Yip Wing Hong and his son Jeffrey Yip across the dynamic landscape of Hong Kong and New York City. This book masterfully intertwines the legacy of dragon-style Kung Fu with the personal and migration story of Sifu Yip, offering a deep dive in the cultural, historical, and political nuances of their Hong Kong and American identity. Dragon of Concrete Jungles captures the multifaceted life of Sifu Yip, unfolding his endeavors in journalism, crime reporting, and managing a Kung Fu school. The narrative extends beyond martial arts, presenting a profound social history that traces the evolution of Manhattan's Chinatown. Featured with over 200 photographs, authentic Chinese linguistic materials, and insightful stories, the book highlights a vivid picture of life, resilience, and the art of Kung Fu. So following the conversation, you also will be able to witness a live demonstration of dragon-style Kung Fu. So this interactive presentation will not only showcase the dynamic techniques and movements of the style, but also provide an in-depth exploration of the principles and philosophical essence. And of course, if you enjoyed today's program, please buy their book. I think there's a QR code. I think they take Venmo. Of course, also I hope you will consider supporting the museum. We also accept cash, Venmo, PayPal, and then if you enjoy our program, because your contributions will allow us to create more programs like this. And for our virtual guests, we really encourage you to actually submit questions during the conversation. So we will have a Q&A, kind of at the end of our conversations, and then where you will be able to answer, they will be able to answer your questions. So, someone said like on Zoom, they are not able to hear. It's connected, but they are able to hear. Yeah. Well, maybe as we go on, and then we can troubleshoot. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, wow. So without further ado, let's actually get it started. So, well, first of all, thank you so much. Like joining us, today. That I think we talk about, sort of your, like already in general. But I think my first question will be, as Kung Fu, practitioners, right? It's writing a book. It's a different endeavor. So, how did the idea come about? Like why would you, you write that? Yeah, I want to write a book.
That's a great question. Okay, thank you for that question. It's actually very insightful, and I reflected a lot on why I wrote this book in the first place. So, in the beginning, this is going back to 2017. 7 years ago, when my mother had passed away, and during that time I did some deep soul searching, and I was very traumatized by the event, because from the time of my mom's diagnosis to her death, it was about 5 months, and 5 months later I decided that there needs to be a way to cope, so a coping mechanism. So writing became the conduit for me to really express my emotions, regulate my emotions on paper through words. And also my father had retired in January of 2018 from the China press. He worked 38 years in the journalism industry, and I decided that this would be a great way to memorialize not just my mom, but also cope with deaths that have occurred in our Kung Fu family, along with my biological family. And it's a great way to really honor also my father, who spent so many decades working in Chinatown, reporting the news, and seeing the evolution of this vibrant Chinese American community.
So when you had the idea, right, and then I'm sure you talked to Sifu Yip, so how did he react when you first brought up the idea?
So I actually kept it as a secret. I didn't actually tell my father I was writing a book. And in the first place, I didn't actually I had no intention of getting to this point where I'll be doing book events and really telling our story. I started off initially as a way to really express how I felt. So until I would say when there's a big inflection point where I really start talking about really writing down how I felt and start organizing into like a formal type of written record, that's when I decided to let my father know that I would be writing this book. And I thought it would be, you asked me when that happened, I actually don't know, because it's been 7 years ago when I started this project, with no intention of bringing this into a final product, as you see in the back.
Well, so my follow-up question would be, right, as you spent, 7 years, right, writing the book, what are some of the, main challenges, that like, you had, because sometimes, right, it's like, I know, especially fiction, over 200 photographs, how did you, choose and select what to include, what not to include?
So I think the most important part is, in terms of content first, was writing down the content and deciding on what type of anonymity I had to give my sources. Because when my father worked as a journalist, there were confidential sources that gave information that would not be privy to the public. So I had to carefully weigh and balance between what was considered proprietary information and what could be given out to the public. And second of all, once the content was established, then that's when picture decision on what pictures to include. And definitely, we didn't want to include pictures that might have cast someone in a negative light. So we had to ensure that the pictures were, you can say, objective, and that did not capture anyone in a negative light that could perhaps bring that damage to the person's reputation. And also deciding on pictures that really reflected at that time of the writing, in terms of the content that I wrote, how it correlated between picture and text to really, as they say, picture is worth 1,000 words. And I definitely wanted to really capitalize on that area. And that's why if you look at the book, it's about 60% text and about 40% photography. Because a visual story can really tell a lot more than what I can really accomplish by writing.
And then I think, even during our earlier conversation, right, you specifically, kind of said something, this is not a kung fu like instructions, book. It's more, in a way, it's like a memoir, right, of your family stories and histories, and of course, you include a lot of, the history of the dragon style kung fu. So how did you balance, kind of the personal and historic elements in the book?
So I think the most important thing when I came to writing this book, when I knew it was becoming a formal document, was I didn't want to write solely on Kung Fu because, as maybe some people who know this group, traditional martial arts is actually dying. Very few young people actually learn Kung Fu. And you look at the comparison between the 70s and to today's generation, a lot of people don't really think about Kung Fu as like a favorite pastime sport that they would like to engage in. So I definitely didn't want to be one-dimensional in my book. And for sure, the book really had to reflect on the diverse life story that we had. As you quite eloquently mentioned, running a management kung fu school, being a journalist, and balancing all of that. So how did I do it? So I definitely didn't want to start off the book and talk about traditional kung fu. So I wanted to talk about how my father landed in this country. Before that, my grandfather immigrated and came over to California, and then ultimately my father would join and reunite with my grandfather in New York City. So I wanted to begin in that fashion and really delve more into why a typical immigrant landed in the United States, why were they here, and what previous backgrounds that they had to really not only make a living, but also use their kung fu background to really showcase, at that time in the 70s, where there were very few traditional kung fu schools around. A lot of people didn't know what kung fu was about. So it gave an opportunity, not necessarily financially, but as a way to really show what kung fu was. And I gotta tell you, kung fu is very diverse. We have over 300 styles of kung fu. So dragon style is definitely a very esoteric style, very not commonly known in the United States. But also, and just slowly bring the kung fu from the background to the foreground as I made my way into the book. So that was the transition that I envisioned in the book. And then after in the middle, if you actually pick up my book, it talks a lot about the historical and the technical and mechanics of Dragon Style Kung Fu. But later on, it pulls back again, and it goes into like the aspect of running a Kung Fu school, dealing with problematic students, knowing how to really bring out the art, but in terms of maintaining quality of instruction, at the same time making sure that the students learning it will not use it in an unethical way, and then having that challenge, and then slowly going back into my childhood, and how that really brought my childhood from being not interested in martial arts, and then actually learning martial arts, how that transition happened, those different life phases and different experiences that I had, and that's how I really try to balance the book in that respect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So I think now we can kind of, I want to go sort of, we'll talk more about the book, but I actually want to go deeper into your family history, stories. So I guess my first question will be, you already briefly mentioned. So how has actually Dragon Style Kung Fu influenced the Yip family's, kind of identity or, migration stories across generations? And then feel free, if Sifu you wanted to share that, you should feel free. Yeah.
Feel free to if you want to ask in
Chinese. Okay. Like 普通话可以吗？
可以。
可以啊，是。就是我是想着，就是这个您在就想是说，这个 Dragon Style 功夫，那您一开始的时候，就是您儿子就是有在学，但是您是最初什么时候接触到这个就是 Dragon Style 功夫的？你是在香港吗？如果是的话，就是能够讲一讲，就是您当时的就是有没有一些就是那种就是 memorable 的moments，就是您在香港就是怎么样，就是最初的接触。
我是1967年我练初中3的时候，喜欢了功夫，然后我就到处找这个好的师傅。就是住在我附近的地方呢，有一个教授这个龙行拳，他是广东有东港老虎之称的民妖会的学生的徒弟。民妖会曾经是南八天陈济棠将军的教官，他是教这个军队的，所以这个我是不是就炒新这个功夫很好的师傅，所以我就开始在他旅馆学了，一直学到我移民来美国，1973年。
Or if he answer in like Cantonese.
你用廣東話。
你可以講廣東話。
OK。Sorry。
廣東話。
我係1973年我1967年喺呢個香港學功夫嘅。當時我想除咗踢波之外咧，就係想再健下身。於是我就揾到住喺我附近嘅一個師傅，佢叫曹生。曹生係軍閥時代有南霸天之稱陳濟棠嘅軍隊嘅教官嚟嘅，係叫東江三虎之一，係非常學功夫嘅。我跟曹生師傅學咧，就學到我一直到我移民1973年嚟，即係由67年學到73年。
So my father, Mr. Yip Wing Hong, learned Dragon Style Kung Fu in Hong Kong starting in 1967. And besides soccer, he was looking for another form of fitness, physical activity. So he found a nearby school taught by Sifu Yip. And Sifu Yip learned the Dragon Style Kung Fu from great grandmaster Lam Yip Wai. Lam Yip Wai was an instructor in the military academy. For some people, they might know it's called the Wampo Military Academy. that was situated in mainland China prior to the communist takeover in 1949. And Sifu studied with Grandmaster Cho Sung until his immigration to the United States in 1973.
咁你1978嚟咗美國嗰陣咧，你第一次就係喺 Manhattan 嘅 Chinatown， 仲係話係去咗其他地方 California， 或者你嚟咗之後即刻去到呢度，你即刻就開咗個功夫嘅學校，就係話你做其他嘅profession。
喺個年代嘅新移民嚟講咧，一男嘅做餐館，女嘅做衣廠，呢個係差唔多係一定嘅。咁我喺香港時候係讀呢個中國文學同埋歷史嘅。學功夫，咁嚟到時候咧，似乎做餐館、做企台或者做廚房咧，因為我戴眼鏡，我爸爸話戴眼鏡唔得㗎，你炒我你樂器升上嚟睇唔到嘅咁樣，不如學做企台啦，咁學做企台。但係我有個機會喺到1973年年底嘅時候，有個機會咧，有同埋另外一個師兄弟叫李新傑，佢係白眉派嘅，有機會合作就開咗一個武館喺鏡友街，唔係先喺呢度嘅。當時嘅第一間武館嘅地方就係喺 MOCA 呢啲地方嘅。
MOCA 就喺度 OK。
因為當時佢係俾半年時間我，之後我就搬咗去鏡友街。
OK， 就呢一層一樓。係啦，就係一樓。都冇人㗎。冇人㗎。呢條街好靜嘅。OK。
So if I can read my gibberish. So I scribble so fast. So Sifu Yip, I came straight to the United States, and during that era, most immigrants had only traditional, were pigeonholed into doing two different occupations. For Chinese men, they worked in the restaurant industry. For the females, they worked in garment factories. And prior to immigrating to the United States, Mr. Yip had studied Chinese literature and history. And when he came to the US, he also had very limited occupational opportunities. So he worked in a restaurant, but in order for him to choose what he wanted to do in a restaurant, he thought about what he wanted to do. Could he work in the kitchen? Could he serve tables? And his father suggested that he learn to be a waiter, because if he worked in the kitchen wearing glasses, it would fog his glasses up and he would not be able to see. So that was an easy choice. And at the end of 1973, found an opportunity to open a Kung Fu school with his Sifu Yip, Lei Sun-gi. Lei Sun-gi, Miss Lee, was a Bat-made white eyebrow Kung Fu practitioner. And the first location of the Kung Fu school was actually here at MOCA. Back on March 10, 1974. It was opened on the first floor of MOCA, and at that time, the street was very desolate. There was not much activity going on compared to today. And then 6 months later, he had relocated his Kung Fu school from MOCA to Canal Street.
咁師傅，你可以再講下你個功夫 school 嘅就嗰時開咗，從70年代到80年代到而家嘅，可能做 overview， 所以差唔多係當時嘅學生有幾多啊，或者當時嘅有冇同其他功夫 school 嘅學校嘅嗰啲關係啊，到而家咁幾十年嘅發展啦。
Can you answer it in English too?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no problem. So I was just asking him, as Sifu mentioned that, like he first established the Kung Fu school actually right here in MOCA in 1973, and kind of later relocated. I'm just asking, can he just give us a kind of a overview of the development of the Kung Fu school, like from the 70s, 80s, even until the present day?
我開館嘅時候係功夫業，因為布斯啱pass away，咁好多人就對功夫好有興趣，咁幾乎係人開武館都可以收到學生嘅， 咁我當時嘅喺近一街嘅武館大概有成50-60個人嘅。阿斯芬亮佢嗰時候喺度學㗎啦，嗰時候就即係好多人學功夫。
大家幾多？How many students？
大概係有60人到啦。嗰時候嘅其他嘅喺內歷史嘅武館人數係更加多，好似有威康 school 有幾百人嘅。咁啊後尾慢慢功夫熱潮開始退啦，咁啦就學嘅人數就逐漸減少，係到Jackie 起嘅時候，功夫又係再起翻嘅。咁喺段時間，可能功夫嘅喺管理方面咧，唔及得好似空手道啊、跆拳道咁有規律，比較散，所以咧就一直係浮浮沉沉咁樣嘅。咁啊當時喺美東有個組織叫做美東國術聯總會。其中係有威康嘅副教派啊，温志明嘅豪家啊，李小龍師弟鄧坤亮嘅明春啊，同埋我哋嘅最緊 style 啊，李星傑嘅白眉啊，仲有甄子丹佢嘅媽咪嘅太極學院啊咁樣，都係連成連結，即係我哋波士頓美東區嘅國隊。咁啊，大家都好團結，但係到而家因為我哋年紀大啦，咁啊慢慢就係塌咗落嚟。咁功夫熱咧又起又落，又起又落。到咗好似我哋嘅武館嚟講咧，就因為華埠嘅變化，租金貴啊，搬嚟搬去冇辦法，就即係要而家喺唐人街想揾個好嘅地方，即係稍微可以搞得下功夫嘅地方，都要5-6千蚊，即係10萬塊唔夠俾佢，所以咧就比較難做啲。但係好想我哋仍然係可以維持到而家，就係靠有啲人幫忙下，舞下獅啊咁樣咯。
So Mr. Yip talked about more about his Kung Fu school, and that when he opened the school, it was during the global Kung Fu craze, and many people at that time were interested. This was around the time when Bruce Lee had just passed away, and there was a really international interest in learning Kung Fu. So during Sifu Yip's time teaching at Canal Street, there were about 60 students, and at other schools like Grandmaster Wing Hong, who taught Fu Jiao Tai, which is Thai Club Kung Fu, he had hundreds of students. So many Kung Fu schools actually were bursting at seams, and at their seams. And then when the global Kung Fu craze started cooling down, then there was really a decline in enrollment. And Kung Fu enrollment has always been very up and down, very sporadic, never consistent. But during the time when Jackie Chan's popularity rose, then the enrollment of Kung Fu schools went back up again. Unlike karate, taekwondo, Kung Fu tends to be less structured, more informal, and that might have something to do probably with the inconsistent enrollment of people in Kung Fu schools. And during the time back, I would say probably around the 70s and 80s, there was an athletic association formed between the Boston and New York City Kung Fu schools, including Wen Jiming of Hung Gar, Grandmaster Duncan Learn of Wing Chun, Drawing Style Sifu Yip, Bang Mei Kung Fu Sifu Lee, Donnie Yen's mom, who taught Tai Chi and Wushu in Boston. So between the Boston and New York City Kung Fu schools, there's a very united front. But as decades have passed, many of the Sifus are aging. So there again is a decline in the number of people teaching and learning. And for the Kung Fu school, in our respect, the landscape of Chinatown has changed drastically. And there's been a lot of transformations in Chinatown, including gentrification, which I mentioned in my book. And it's also very difficult to find a prime location where rent can be easily between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. It's really hard to rent and hard to support a school based on that. And the only way we've sustained our Kung Fu school to its current state is through doing our performances.
I just quickly add on. So can you also share how has COVID, might have impacted? I'm sure it was briefly discussed, but maybe just the Kung Fu school, that's still open, just in general. Yeah.
So the COVID-19 pandemic has really impacted a lot of people, and not just people's health, mental well-being. And for many years, a lot of people were using Kung Fu as a way to reduce stress and relax. But during the shutdown by Governor Cuomo, ordering non-essential businesses to shut down in New York, Kung Fu schools were no doubt impacted because of the closure. So during that time, there was no activities happening. So even to this day, we don't actually run a Kung Fu school per se, and we do our performances. So it's been very difficult for a lot of Kung Fu schools to really restart their operations. So also that also includes line dancing as well. Line dances, as you see during COVID, there was no performances happening. It's only recently that we started having performances where social distancing, wearing masks has been relaxed. But definitely it has really impacted and decimated a lot of the Kung Fu schools. And this includes schools in New York City. I can see also a lot of karate schools that have also went belly up in Manhattan. So financially and also from the perspective of passing down martial art, COVID-19 has really put a really clamp and lid on such expansion and spread of martial arts.
So now I actually want to once again, turn the focus back to Sifu Yip. As I think I mentioned, he has a long kind of background in journalism and crime reporting. So I'm gonna, say the questions in English and then we'll, say in Cantonese. So Sifu Yip, how did your experiences in journalism and crime reporting influence your approach to teaching or practice Kung Fu? Or what insights did you gain from covering crime stories that might have influenced your perspective on resilience or survival? So 師傅想問你咧就你個因為你在個 China Press 做咗好多年都係寫嗰啲新聞，但係好多都係 cover 嗰啲gang issue 啊，喺 Chinatown 係 cover 呢啲 gang issue 非常明顯，所以話呢啲經驗有冇對你有功夫嘅有咩出咗喺你嘅人生啦，或者係人生觀啦，有冇咩影響啊？或者 especially as you practice Kung Fu 嘅
我未曾做報館之前，我做咗報館係差唔多40年。14年。1978年嘅時候，我開始做呢個月刊嘅，然後80年咧就正式做日報。一路做到78年，18年退休嘅，整整40年。咁做過由低層做起，打字、黑房，即係沖曬，記者、編輯。咁我因為要養家庭，我有3年係做過每日就3年係做3份工嘅，1至5做報紙，禮拜朝頭早教功夫。然後下晝走去差館做記台，做3份工，捱咗整整3年。個目的係希望家庭過好啲。因為我讀嘅係呢個中國文學同埋歷史，又學咗功夫，即係估唔到，即係呢2樣嘢係成為我喺美國謀生嘅技能。我未開館，我開咗館冇幾耐，即係未做報館之前咧，曾經同幫派講過數嘅，因為有一種原因就係有個幫派係上個冇同我講數，後尾解決咗。另外一次就係過春節舞獅時候，喺呢個包利街同埋飄街之間，又俾另外一個幫派係截住。又要同佢講數，咁好彩命大，冇事，而家都冇事。採訪新聞嚟講咧， 當時因為記者咧係唐人街記者係乜嘢都要做，冇話分別類規定做邊，即係你規定你即係做社區行企啊，或者跑法庭啊，或者跑警察消息啊，參差一腳踢一報紙係中文報紙，經驗係即係做比較困難嘅，所以我都一腳踢乜都做。咁我第一單採訪華清嘅消息嘅時候就喺卑人街中間曾經有一個兩個華清行過去落去呢個北街，咁對面有另外一個第二個幫派嘅華清見到就走去挑釁佢哋，即係撩佢哋。咁其中一個華清就攞支槍出嚟，就一槍爆咗佢頭，嗰個華清就仆低喺度，個血咧喺雪流去到咁遠嘅。咁我接到消息第一時間趕到，警方已經拉起封鎖線。嗰次係我第一次睇到即係華清行屍街頭嘅新聞。之後一嗰幾年亦都見到好多，即係有時麻木咗。好彩1994年之後咧，呢係掃蕩呢個幫派，咁而家就太極盛世啦，就好即係少咗嗰邊呢個非作帶，就即係比較太平咗咯。
So Sifu Yip talked about his 40 years as a journalist. He actually started as a reporter unofficially in 1978. Writing different articles, and I also mentioned this in our book, that he wrote articles at the Chinatown Manpower Project, CMP, one of the major nonprofits in Chinatown. And around 1980, that's when he formally entered into the newspaper industry and retired in 2018. And from the beginning, he worked as a typist, worked in the club, in the dark room. If anyone doesn't know what the dark room, which I'm probably dating myself. So the dark room is when you have the film. When you took pictures back then, it was non-digital. So you take the film, put it into dissolution, turn off the lights, make sure that you didn't have any lights destroying the film. And then you wait for hours and hours before the film was developed. So again, I'm dating myself, so do not guess my age. So after working in the dark room, then he became a reporter. He also worked as an editor. So during that time, you have to realize that as a Chinese newspaper company, it was unlike, say, the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, where you have a division of labor. So you worked in all sorts of roles, including going to the court, reporting on pertinent news, covering the hard news of crime, police investigations, to covering community events. So you had to do everything, and that's what Mr. Yip did. So during 3 years, simultaneously, he worked 3 different jobs. On the weekdays, he worked as a journalist. On the weekends, during the daytime, he would work as a Kung Fu Sifu, managing Kung Fu school. In the afternoon, he worked at a restaurant. So he did it for 3 years, and that was a way for him to raise his family, our family. And let's see if I can read this also. So basically, he would never have thought that his Kung Fu and his journalism career would define who he is in the United States. And he had multiple identities. And during the time when he had Kung Fu school, he also was involved in negotiating with Chinatown gangs. Because when you run a business, whether it's a store or a Kung Fu school, you will cross paths, no doubt, with Chinatown gangs, since gangs had a stronghold in different territories and turfs. So one example that Sifu Yip brought up is during the Spring Festival on the corner of Bowery and Pella Street. He was performing line dance, and the gang intercepted his group, and he had to negotiate. And luckily, he made out alive with a positive outcome for both. Also, during his most memorable assignment, which was his first newspaper, being a beat reporter, was a shooting that happened on Bayard Street when two Ching gang members were on Mott Street. Another rival gang member across the street spotted the two Ching members, and this gang member went over to provoke the Ching gangsters. So the Ching gang members in turn shot the individual rival gangster, and the blood was quite far away. And I mentioned this in my book, it's about 8 feet long. And after his execution, he became used to all these gang violence stories that he covered, and he basically got numb to it. But however, after 1994, New York gangs, there was a crackdown, as people remember. At that time, the federal government was using the RICO Act, racketeering Act, to crack down on all these gangsters. So many of these gangs were eventually eliminated, and the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecuted all these cases.
But I think, yeah, I guess it's just hearing, sort of the history of, like the gang issues and then how you dealt with them, even covering, being the journalism for 40 years. I guess I'm just wanted to ask, like, how did you do it? For example, like, I guess, like, you don't ever want to put your family in danger, right? You want to always, as a household, of your family, you want to protect them. And of course, covering those stories, witnessing, living in Chinatown must not be easy. So, 師傅想問你咧，你講過幫派嘅呢啲是非啊，或者好危險喎，但係你好多人都會話哦做唔做啊，或者係做都要保護自己嘅家庭啊，但係咩讓你去堅持咁耐咧？40年咧？
煮一個就揾食，要做工。至於講呢個報道呢個幫派嘅事情，都係根據警方嘅記錄嘅記者會啊，佢哋所講嘅嚟做發表嘅，所以就係對幫派嚟講係冇咩傷害，但係即係有時咧，幫派覺得你寫嘅嘢對佢嚟講有出入咧。佢會揾你算賬嘅，好似有一個即係資格同攞過我嘅記者，佢喺法庭報導咗一個幫派大佬，話佢點當庭即係當場喊出嚟咁樣，一喊出嚟咁當嗰個幫派大佬假釋出嚟之後咧，揾佢上去。佢嘅地頭，然後同佢鬧佢，後尾要佢加入佢個幫派，嚇到嗰個記者咧，即係落嚟時候啲手提腳震嘅。咁亦有一個記者咧，即係寫咗事實係咁樣嘅，但係覺得嗰大佬覺得我對佢嚟講係冇面。咁佢出翻即係又係解釋之後出嚟咧，而個記者上去同佢解釋，個記者唔敢上，即係知道好大件事。咁另外一個女記者係即係佢有間報館嘅，拍開段新聞嘅，即係拍開台街新聞就上去啫，仲比較熟啲。嗰個大佬話，即係唔想為難佢，就佢反地話你飲晒呢杯就冇事。嗰女記者就幾好酒嚟嘅，佢飲晒嗰杯酒，咁算數咯咁樣，即係諸如此類打電話話喂你寫錯嘢喎咁樣，邊有？就好似同我嚟講，我因為有一次係寫嘢令到嗰間餐館有啲生意唔係幾好，咁佢班人同我講㗎，你雖然功夫好，但係知啦呢啲嘢係嘛？俾人即係有啲咩事件你都唔知噶嘛，即係話俾人誤傳咁樣意思咁樣，咁你同寫翻篇即係更正下咁樣 ，OK 咁我亦都冇咩所謂咁樣咯。所以只要你揸正嚟做解釋下咧，就應該係冇咩事嘅。
用啲做係被 just still respectful， 又係大家做嚟係，
大家識做咁。
A lot of great information. I'm sorry if you don't understand Cantonese, but I'll do my best to translate, so don't hold me to account. So, Mr. Yip was mentioning that back then the gangs Basically, if you wrote them in a negative light, they would actually take retribution on reporters. And knowing that that happens, one would probably be afraid of the potential repercussions for yourself and the family. So the way Mr. Yip explained it was the reason why he kept doing this is one, he had to make a living. He had to raise his family, so that was not an option for him to quit. And also the way reporters wrote and reported on criminal activity on these gangsters, they followed police records from the NYPD along with the Journalists Association that would they digest all the official government records and then disseminate it among the different news bureaus. So there was no harm if you followed the proper protocol. However, if gangs felt that you had made them lose face or you betrayed them, they definitely will come after you. So there were a few examples that Sifu actually gave about a gang leader who went to look for a reporter who had wrote something about him crying at an event. So he felt that he had a tremendous loss of face, so he received a major scolding by this gang leader. So the reporter then was given an ultimatum, join my gang. And the reporter, by the time he came back down, he's trembling from the whole ordeal. Another reporter wrote an article, and this article also made the kingpin lose face. And the reporter was summoned to go up and meet the gang leader, and the reporter refused to go up because he was afraid that the outcome would not be great. And another female reporter also allegedly disrespected a gangster. So the gang leader asked the female reporter to drink all the brandy. And you drink all the brandy, then we will basically consider this score settled. And luckily, this female reporter was a drinker, and she was able to drink the entire brandy. And the gang leader said, "Okay, I'm satisfied. Let's just move on." So, in Sifu Yip's situation, which also I mentioned this in my book, hint my book, is he wrote an article that actually impacted the business in Chinatown. So this particular business was impacted by Sifu's article. So the business owner summoned Mr. Yip to come and talk, and he basically had a thinly veiled threat telling Mr. Yip that I know your kung fu is good, but sometimes bad things can happen to people. And that was a hint to basically that you basically encroach on my livelihood. So what the business owner did was he asked Mr. Yip to write an article that basically refuted what was initially stated in the article. And Sifu Yip basically said, when you are honest and respectful to the people, to the subjects that you write about, you will basically have smooth sailing thereafter.
Great. So I do want to have opportunity, for the audience, to ask questions. So I'm going to just ask my last question. So I think Jeffrey, you mentioned, the book. It's really, a documentation of your family history, reflection, of the neighborhoods, development, and also sort of in memory of your mother, right? So just but I wanted to hear from Sifu Yip's own words. So Sifu 做呢本書咧就我Jeffrey 頭先講咗，佢最初嗰陣咧冇同你講啊嘛，佢叫做 keep a secret。但係之後咧佢就用咗好多年，2017年開始已經好，但係最近幾年先寫。但係你覺得呢本書你最初聽佢講咧係咪好支持啊？咩反應啊？或者依家呢本書出版之後咧，你希望大家讀呢本書咧係可以學到乜嘢咧？我或者係有啲咩 take away 咧係？
我好支持佢出呢本書，因為佢講嘅好似我一個小新移民喺美國點生存，點樣對呢個功夫，對呢個報導新聞方面作出嘅呢個努力。可能貢獻，起碼作出個努力傳播呢個中國嘅文化，即係能夠讓更多嘅中國嘅人士咧，即係中國人啊、美國人咧了解功夫嘅意義同埋社區發生嘅事情 係一件好嘅事，希望大家係留意下，知道下，即係我哋中國人喺美國點生存。
So Sifu Yip definitely supports this book to talk about the new immigrant experience, about how he made a living, doing managing kung fu school, being a journalist, and having diligence in pursuing these two careers, parallel careers. And it's important that for society to understand what occurred in the Chinese American community. It's a good way to document our history, to see how the Chinese Americans have lived in one aspect of society, since we can't speak for the entire Chinese American experience. And that he's grateful for this book to have been written.
So now I want to turn the floor to you. We will take questions from the in-person audience first, and then also we'll and then I will go over there and then kind of ask the questions that from the virtual audience. So anyone, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. I will pass this mic, and so then and then when you ask the questions, also our virtual audience can hear it. So any questions from the audience? Anybody? Okay.
Hi, I'd just like to ask you, you're from Hong Kong originally, right? Have you gone back, and what do you think of the present situation in Hong Kong?
So Sifu and I have returned to Hong Kong pre-Hanover and post-Hanover. The book does not talk about the current situation of what's happening in Hong Kong, and I don't have enough information to understand what's happening in the political or what have you in terms of situation in Hong Kong.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, so I want to direct this question to Sifu Yip. 我想問下你初踢足球嘅時候，你咪話你想揾第二個方法可以做運動，跟住之後就揾到做功夫嘅。我想問你有啲咩令到你咁愛上功夫，或者令到你咁中意用功夫嚟做一個解壓啊，或者做運動嘅方法？Oh, sorry. I was asking, so he mentioned that he did use soccer as an exercise practice before, but I was wondering what made him develop his passion for Kung Fu, or what made it different than like other forms of exercise.
因為喺當時咧，香港人嚟講咧係冇咩娛樂嘅。大多數嘅男仔咧都係中意踢波，而且足球喺香港嘅時候係好興旺，有亞洲足球王國之稱。咁我哋除咗日踢波之外咧，就冇咩其他娛樂，即係翻學放學踢波。咁夜晚去邊處好咧？當時有唔少香港、台灣嘅武俠片。好似黃家達啊嗰啲拍嘅梁小龍啊拍嗰啲武俠片咧，我哋都成日即係覺得功夫係幾過癮下喎咁樣。所以我就喺報紙度揾下睇下有邊個師傅跟住我住嘅，或者佢真係有啲名氣嘅。咁我又好幸運，就喺我附近兩條街就揾到呢個曹心師傅。初學啦，我就中意呢個功夫啦，因為龍形拳咧係客家拳，而我自己本身係客家人，所以可能有種淵源嘅關係咧，所以我學功夫就好快脆上手。咁師傅亦都肯教，我亦都肯學。有時候咧，我唔單止夜晚上去學，到朝頭早咧亦都同埋班師兄弟去公園，咁師傅咧亦都好好照顧㗎。除咗呢個功夫之外，亦都學埋舞獅。咁因為而家好多人有啲教舞獅佬，亦都喺發成，有好多啲舞獅就係除咗喺香港學翻嚟嘅。
So during the time when Sifu grew up in the 60s in Hong Kong, there was not much entertainment options. So soccer was definitely one of the popular sports, and there wasn't much going on besides soccer and very limited entertainment options. So he thought to himself, well, what can I do? Where can I go? And he thought about the films that he watched from Wong Kar-tak and some of the famous directors from both Hong Kong and Taiwanese movies. So he watched these martial movies and it looked intriguing. And he looked at a newspaper to look for famous Sifus or Sifus that lived near his home. And luckily, by chance, 2 blocks from his house, there was a Sifu that taught Dragon style Kung Fu, which I mentioned, Cho Sung, Sifu Cho Sung. And as soon as he began learning Kung Fu, he loved learning Kung Fu. And that also, Sifu Yip said, he's also of Hakka descent. And you can say it was pure destiny that he loved it, he learned it well. And the Sifu was willing to look after him and teach him, including out in the park. And Sifu took great care to learn it, learn the system, as well as learn line dancing. And he's able to use also the line dancing as a way to make a living and spread Chinese culture.
Any more questions? Great.
Just talking. Jeffrey, how old were you when you started learning Kung Fu, and did you want to?
Tough answer. Okay, so let me backtrack my history. When I first went up to the Kung Fu school, I might have been about 6 or 7. Definitely had no interest in learning Kung Fu. I hated Kung Fu. I actually watched Karate Kid, and I thought karate is much cooler than Kung Fu. And seeing Miyagi, which is done by Japanese-American actor Pat Morita, it intrigued me. I thought karate was actually better than Kung Fu. So, but I didn't have the will or choice to really choose karate or Kung Fu. And for one, also, I wasn't a very motivated kid, so even if you put me in karate dojo, I might have wasted my parents' money. So thank goodness for my dad and mom not wasting the tuition money on karate lessons. So fast forward, it actually, as I also discuss this in my book, whenever I mention something, I'll mention if it's in my book, so that way you can learn more about it, is at around 10 years old, I was followed by a group of teenagers into the elevator. So I first entered the elevator in my residential complex, and the teenagers said, hold the door for me. So I did, and I regretted that decision because these teenagers followed me out of the elevator, and then they ran down the hallway asking me, do you have any money, kid? Do you have any money? So I didn't know what to do, and my Kung Fu was almost non-existent, except for watching Pat Morita on the screen, or Jackie Chan, or Bruce Lee. I didn't know anything. So the teenagers went through ransacked my school bag looking for money, and then as chance happened, my mom clicked the lock, clicked slowly, and then they heard it. So they looked back and forth, what was that noise? And they quickly went down the stairs. So that night, I took my rudimentary or lack thereof knowledge of Kung Fu and started practicing it in earnest and with diligence. And then my father came back from his journalist assignment and then told my mom what happened. So I remember vividly what I did. I went into bed, I was in the bedroom, I was performing a form that the great grandmaster had taught me a whole life. And I'll never forget it. Sifu Yip, my father, had a smile on his face. And I guess he said, now I got you, son. Now you're learning Kung Fu. So to answer the question, I began Kung Fu when I was about 10 years old. And just to also add extra information without, in addition to your question, I've found Kung Fu personally enriching and rewarding. I've dealt with bullies in the corporate world. I've dealt with toxic people in the workplace, and I've actually taken the lessons I learned from Kung Fu, not necessarily using fists, which I've never used my fists to settle a score, but to use the concept of martial morality, which I mentioned a lot in how I apply in the book with anecdotes. And those concepts, controlling yourself, not being a bully yourself, not trying to disrespect people, and finding ways to deflect the few situations have actually allowed me to prosper. And I'm grateful to say that it has helped me actually be a lot more prepared and be successful in my managerial career at this point. So I really thank the lessons that Sifu Yip taught me, along with the great grandmasters. I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Maybe we take one more question from the audience, if there's any.
So how many years did you study it?
Yes, so I started when I was, this is back around 1989 when I started. So I've lost count. How many years is that? Someone can do the math for me. So since 1989, I've studied Dragon Style Kung Fu. And also...
That's 35 years.
35 years.
You're not supposed to outweigh that.
But don't multiply, don't add on how many years
That's
before that.
35 equals 45 years old.
We have a mathematician here. Give him a few spells. So, along that journey, I've learned Dragon Style Kung Fu. I've learned Bak Mei Kung Fu, which is White Eyebrow Kung Fu, which is a brother system to Dragon Style. They call it their Hingdai Kung Fu systems. And I'll explain that later in my slide. And I've also learned line dance along with Wu Style Tai Chi. So with all of that, it was a way for me to balance my work, my school, my career, and it's provided really a great way to basically train for life, as one of my CU students have told me.
We actually have one question from our virtual audience. So this person is asking, modern performance like other genre like wushu and MMA seem to be doing well or popular. So what is the future of traditional kung fu and what is its place in contemporary society?
Okay, I have a good answer for that. Let me just reach my book.
Buy your book.
So to answer your question, MMA, Filipino martial arts, Thai boxing, they're definitely very popular. Traditional Kung Fu, the future, you could say, could be a cautionary tale. So I can tell you what my feeling about the future of traditional Kung Fu. And I'll read a few paragraphs. I'll paraphrase. So the future successors of Kung Fu and other martial arts will need to balance between adapting to the operating environments and preserving the traditional core of the martial arts. They will need to do an honest appraisal of the SWOT for people who are not MBA students. It is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to strategize the business. And they have to readily pivot when the market conditions change. They will need to decide whether to pursue a cost strategy that is focused on decreasing costs in order to increase profits, or a differentiation strategy that is standing out from the competition to attract students despite increased costs. While the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities of each school will vary widely, the threats largely remain the same. They stem not from competition, but from the seismic shifts in society and how people choose to spend their time and money. As a result, each strategy carries significant risks. So we run the risk of appearing overly commercialized, particularly if accompanied by numerous add-on fees. If leaving the student feeling nickel and dime, that could compromise the integrity and quality of martial art. However, regardless of changes in society, economy, or technology, as long as there are students with the desire and patience to learn, and as long as there are Sifus with desire and patience to teach, as long as good students can continue to find good Sifus, and good Sifus can continue to find good students, traditional Chinese martial arts will survive.
But so now I'm now curious about Sifu's opinion. So Sifu 做個問題咧，就係你覺得嘅呢個傳統功夫嘅外來發展前景嘅咧，就因為有人講而家已經你都講咗唔係話之前咁流行啊，或者好多人學啊，但係你覺得咧？
唔單止係功夫，所有嘅乜所都有咁嘅困境、咁嘅困難。點解？因為而家科技發達，啲細路啊都係中意玩電腦、打 game， 好多活動，好多科技活動，唔似得我哋以前咁單調。所以功夫咧係要靠自己去發揚。點發揚咧？就係講功夫嘅好處。功夫係內練精神氣，外練皮筋骨，就主要係修練個人。 係要花啲時間落去，即係令到自己咧係有種修養嘅內外嘅修養嘅，就希望即係有心人咧係父母又好，係培養嘅仔女學下中國呢個文化，或者係相信外國人亦都好好中意學呢個中國嘅文化嘅。咁功夫咧係一種選擇，就希望將來有好嘅出路咯。
So, Mr. Yip's belief is that not just Kung Fu, but many martial arts have faced challenges because of technology, growth, and opportunities. Kids love the gadgets. A lot of technology opportunities exist for many kids to choose. And Kung Fu, as far as developing it, you have to rely on the individual person to discuss the benefits of Kung Fu, to talk about it, and to really articulate it to society. And that it's personal development, and you need to put the time and energy to developing it and discovering the personal benefits from your own experience and journey. And that new parents should give the opportunity for their children to learn Chinese culture. And of course, Westerners also have love learning about Chinese culture. And with that, he hopes that Chinese martial arts will flourish.
Yeah. Oh, I think you have a question?
Yes.
Sure. No problem. Yeah. And then we will, transition into the live demonstration.
兩位葉師傅好咁冇問題係咧你都提過，而家開武館咧同人家係好困難嘅，咁有咩辦法係繼續可以傳承呢個龍形或者係中國武術喺不係用一種實體嘅教館武館啦，或者係用其他嘅方式 My question is, as you mentioned, keeping a martial arts school is extremely difficult in Chinatown. How do you have any plans or vision to continue the education of the Dragon style or martial arts school, either in a physical form or other forms?
Thank you. So, I think in order to spread traditional Kung Fu, whether it's Dragon style Kung Fu, praying mantis, any type of martial art, you probably, I would say, need a sound business strategy. This includes community outreach, reaching out to nonprofits, and perhaps also reaching out to public schools. Since public schools have been teaching, as you see, increasingly yoga and mindfulness activities, that you establish some formal partnerships with them. That would be a way to spread traditional Kung Fu and also Chinese culture. And then you have also the aspect of which we mentioned about technology. There's a lot of growth in technology. This includes Zoom, as you see, presenters are listening to us right now. There's online learning, distance learning. So that could be another way to really spread the education and the knowledge of Kung Fu or any type of martial arts. Yeah, Sifu that concurs.
Well, I think we have talked and heard enough about Kung Fu. I think what we need to do right now just to kind of witness, and then the style, and then really to see, sort of the richness, of this. So give us, 2 minutes. We're gonna just reset really quick. So if you introduce the restroom, please feel free. But literally, we'll just reset it.
Are you recording?
We need to do this, yeah.
I don't know who that person is. So as you see, over the past decades, we have had many performances, including Miss Universe 1982. We performed at July 4th at the original World Trade Center. There's been performances you see outside Nanhua. So we're everywhere when it comes to performances, including our 20th anniversary, which you see over here. Something that you might not be familiar with Kung Fu lion dance is what's this lion dance? How does this actually relate to Kung Fu? And that's because the lion dance, it requires the same physical and fitness abilities as a Kung Fu practitioner. And traditional Kung Fu schools have always done line dancing as a way to also celebrate the Chinese cultural heritage. So it requires very deep stances, as traditional line dancers do. It requires a lot of upper body strength and back muscles, especially for lion tail. Lion tail is my least favorite thing to do. I probably can't do it at my age. So, and then it's also accompanied by musicians, the drums, cymbals, and gong. So in order to do a line dance, you do need a good stance, you need stamina, you need eye-hand coordination. So that's why they're both closely associated. So you can see this is our celebration during our anniversary event recently. There's also Sifu Yip on the left-hand side teaching a student. That place is actually where MOCA, the archives, used to be on Mulberry Street. As you remember, there's a fire that destroyed, decimated the building in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. So that was one of our locations. And there's the great Grandmaster Wing Hong, Grandmaster Lau. He's a drummer who has very complicated, complex beats. And then below is Grandmaster Ho Lai. So Grandmaster Ho Lai and Grandmaster Lau, they both immigrated around the same time in the late 80s from both mainland China and Hong Kong. And we were fortunate enough for them to teach us Dragon Style Kung Fu, as they also offer another level of understanding. And we learned Dragon Style Kung Fu not only from Sifu Yip, third generation, but also from them, second generation. And they actually both study Dragon Style Kung Fu from our great Grandmaster Lam Yu Kwai. So great Grandmaster Lam Yu Kwai was the founder of Dragon Style Kung Fu. He was born in 1874 during the Qing Dynasty, which is the final dynasty of Imperial China. And at that time, it was very popular for people to learn Kung Fu. And this is for a practical purpose, not necessarily for interest and fitness. There were ongoing wars between Hakka villages. Does anyone here know what Hakka means? I don't want to assume people do. Okay, Hakka means guest people. So these people were considered guest people who immigrated from northern China and slowly migrated down to southern China. And they were basically nomadic. Some people refer Hakka people as gypsies. And they were basically looked down upon by the majority of Chinese people. So they're ridiculed. They were accused of stealing limited land, accused of stealing jobs. So the Hakka people were not actually viewed in a positive light. So a lot of Hakka villages were basically fortresses where they build these walled-off villages. And if you were last Lam, you lived in the Lam Hakka family village. If you were Chan, you would live in the Chan family village. So these different villages would have ongoing wars between each other. So what they did to learn to protect themselves from any ongoing attacks or incoming attacks was they would hire Kung Fu Sifus to go into each of their respective villages and teach Kung Fu. So Lam Yu Kwai learned what we know today as Lam Ga Gao, which means Lam family teaching. And he studied this style with a person named Hoi Feng. Hoi Feng taught him this style. And then around the time of him venturing to Wa Sao Toi, which is a mountain, it's a temple on Mount Lao Fao in Guangdong, China, he came upon this monk named Monk Daiyok. So Monk Daiyok and his student Ma Mong were based out of Wa Sao Toi temple. And it happened that during one year at a festival, Lam Yu Kwai was performing with students. And among the audience, there was a monk, Daiyok, who actually was particularly frowning upon Lam's performance of his Kung Fu. So the students were visibly upset and they confronted the monk immediately. And the monk said, if you disagree with how I see Kung Fu, you can come and attack me. So Monk Daiyok actually fought the students, and the students were knocked off their feet one after another. So Lam Yu Kwai decided that this was the person he had to learn Kung Fu from. So Lam Yu Kwai was the cousin of Great Grandmaster Zheng Lei Chu. Great Grandmaster Chern was a founder of Bak Mei Kung Fu, as I mentioned, White Eyebrow Kung Fu, and they're considered brother systems to Dragon Style. And they both befriended Great Grandmaster Lam Yong Tong. And he was a highly skilled Kung Fu practitioner in the style known as MOCA Kung Fu. Ga, G-A-R, means family, so family style, with surname Mok. And Great Grandmasters Lam and Chern would serve as the combat instructors, and they actually taught at the Bo Wan Hao, the Wampo Military Academy, which still exists in both mainland China and also in the Republic of China, also known as Taiwan. So both places have this military academy. And back in the Republic of China era, the Republican era, it was they had many famous students who studied with them, not just martial arts and weaponry, but they also learned political ideology, which eventually there were factions where it was split between the Kuomintang, KMT, with the Gomchang-dong, the Communist Party. So famous students came out from this academy with different political ideologies, and that actually proved to be a liability for Great Grandmaster Lam. Great Grandmaster Lam eventually was caught and sent to be interrogated by the communist officials, and he was accused of subverting the Communist Party and the challenging government. And the interrogation costed Lam's health, and he suffered a stroke from the interrogation. And during that time, some senior communist officials actually helped Lam escape China, because it turns out they both recognized Great Grandmaster Lam as they were once students of him. And he apologized for not including his name. Then taught Lam Yu Kwai, Great Grandmaster Lam, Dragon Style Kung Fu, which he formulated by combining both the Lam Ga Gao along with the Kung Fu he learned from Taiyo, known as today Dragon Style Kung Fu. And then it was passed on to thousands of students, including KMT and Communist military. And among his students also were civilians, Si Gong, Wei, Chou Sung, Lau Wing Hong, and Lei Fan. So all of them had a hand in teaching Kung Fu to Sifu Yip. And then Sifu Yip in turn taught the Kung Fu to the disciples, including myself as a fourth generation. And as I mentioned before, we benefit from learning the Dragon Style from Hawaii and Lau Wing Hong when they immigrated to New York City. So these are the Sigongs. We have Hawaii. This is him performing outside Beida Bakery on Mott Street. This is Sigong Lau Wing Hong, and this is Sigong Mao Yin. Sigong Mao Yin was someone who actually studied Chinese medicine with Great Grandmaster Lam. So when he immigrated to New York City in 1977, he was able to pass on some of his medical knowledge to Sifu Yip in what we call Tida. Tida is you put the ointment when you have sprains and bruises after Kung Fu or accidents, where it actually helps with sprains and bruises that you have, and it does wonders. And in my book I mentioned, Sifu Yip applied the same type of Chinese medicine to Miss Singapore during the Miss Universe. When Miss Singapore was rehearsing doing the catwalk down the aisle, she sprained her ankle, and when an official from the Miss Universe pageant learned that Sifu Yip was well versed in Chinese medicine and that he could help the Miss Singapore with sprain, Miss Sifu Yip and his friend both went to meet with Miss Singapore and the official, and he put the Tida Zhou on Miss Singapore, and Miss Singapore was able to resume and compete in the competition. Unfortunately, she didn't win. But still, the medicine did wonders. This is my Sibang Eng. He's a Dragon Style practitioner from San Diego. I take frequent trips out to California, so whenever I'm in California, I also meet up with my Sibang. And he is a pioneer to spread Dragon Style Kung Fu in Southern California. So with Sifu Yip spreading Dragon Style Kung Fu on the East Coast, along with another Sifu Lam in Florida, along with Siba Ing from California, we have a strong toehold. Now we need someone to expand with us. And I want to play this video of Hawaii. He is phenomenal with his Dragon Style Kung Fu, along with Sifu. Okay, my apologies for the glitches. We will just move on to our next slide. My apologies. Okay, so this is just some basic characteristics of Dragon Style Kung Fu. It's a Hakka style. So Hakka style includes styles like Zhouga Tonglong, Son of Prey Mantis, which is actually a style that the president of the Museum of Chinese America actually studied. So definitely want to give credit to this style as well, since he was gracious enough to allow us to present both today. And then we also have Long Ga Gao, and it's a non-flamboyant system. It's combat focused, and it's similar to many of the Kung Fu styles, including Hung Gar, Wing Chun. It has both hard and soft power. And this is the highest level of Dragon Style Kung Fu. The highest level to achieve in Kung Fu is not the ability to pummel someone or to bully someone and hurt someone. Is to follow this model that we have. Control oneself, let others do what they will. Does not mean I am weak. Control your heart, obey the principles. Let others flaunt their prowess. And as I mentioned before, I take this along with the tenets of Western morality, and apply it in my daily life. Because in modern day, you cannot settle disputes by using fists. You cannot bully out your way by being dominant over someone. That's not how the way the world works, at least in the real world. And knowing these type of ideologies and having practical applications, I would say this brings you a lot further than being able to beat someone up. So, without further ado, I want to give a live demonstration. I'm sure everyone is tired of hearing me talk. So, no? Okay, good job. Thank you. I'll give you $10. So, some disclosures, okay? Unfortunately, in the United States, we're a litigious society, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So, no visual contact between the audience, no visual contact with both staff. This is not a martial arts seminar, it's not a self-defense lesson. Consult a licensed physician before you engage in any physical activity. This presentation is for illustrative purposes. It's not substitute to training with a competent instructor. The presenters and MOCA staff and institution, Museum of Chinese America, are not responsible for any injuries if the audience attempts to mimic the movements, etc. And get out of the way. I'm a former compliance officer, so I do a lot of compliance and legal type of work involved. So without further ado, the Chronicles will demonstrate, and then afterwards we're going to have one of our students, John, who's gracious enough to also narrate. So the first thing we'll do is the what we call the pseudo chop, the shorthand fighting form.
Would you want to introduce them?
Yeah. So, just start by saying
Okay, sure. Okay, what Sifu Yip and Jeffrey are demonstrating is a shorthand fighting form. It's a two-person fighting set. Jeffrey's punching, Sifu Yip is performing a sauce-out technique, then performs an uppercut. Now he blocks with his wrist, steps forward. Jeffrey repeats the sequence. You'll note the body position. You also note the hand and arm placement for maximum control. This is one of the foundational sets of Dragon Style.
You can see it being performed here at full speed. It trains a number of things, hand-eye coordination, footwork, and it's a foundational aspect of the system.
Thank you, John. So now we're going to have my son Tristan perform a Bach-made form. This is called the Go Bo Pui 9-step push form. As a way to showcase the form and perform at high speed, maximum speed.
Wow, that's definitely 35 years of training, you know? 50 seconds, yeah, wow. I think, so that will be all, I think, the end of the live demonstration, but, so we will go into a book signing. Of course, please, feel free to, browse the book. They will, have an awesome meet and greet. Also, the museum also will remain open until 6 o'clock. So if you want to, haven't been here yet or haven't been back in a while, feel free to, explore our exhibitions. Because of, AAPI Heritage Month, we also have different programs every week. Normally on the weekends or on Thursday nights. So feel free to check our website, and we have some flyers, at front you can also take. Before then, can we actually give a round of applause, to thank you so much for their, presentation, their stories.
Look at too many cameras.
Yeah. Any last wisdom or any words you want the audience here to take away? Yep.
I have to say, 50 years of the school. I won't date myself, I'm not saying how old I am. But fitting in all this family history with managing kung fu school, being a journalist, working in a restaurant, balancing myself with a professional career in non-martial arts. Also getting educated. The reason why I do all of this in the form of a book is to spread a Chinese American story. Most Chinese Americans talk about their journey to the United States, working in restaurants, working as seamstress, building up the fabric of this community, and most important is make a living to survive, to make sure that their kids in the next generation can do financially better than they do, and also have a stable and steady career so they can prosper and thrive. It's important that I think this book, when you walk away with it, is don't see it just as a martial arts story, see it as the struggles that between my father and myself, what we went through, and also bring awareness in my book about what my mom went through, who unfortunately passed away with a rather aggressive form of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. It's something that's not talked about in the Asian community. ALS is a very horrible term disease. that few Asians actually have. And I think when it affected my mom, I think a lot of the medical professionals didn't know what to do about it. And I want to really bring awareness about when people have this terminal disease, how it impacts the family, and how it forever changes how you see life in the future. And I want to find this way, in many ways, to honor my mom. And I hope that by discussing things that were not discussed in this book, we'll give more of a personality behind who wrote this book, why, and the important stories that I think that are not covered in academic textbooks or in academic writing or any type of journals. So I hope I can make my mark and really contribute this information to the public. And also I thank the Museum of Chinese America and you. It's been such a great person to work with. And I've patronized this museum for many years. And I think it really tells an important story for everyone. Whether you're Chinese American, Japanese, Caucasian, it doesn't matter. That we all, as all Americans are, have something to contribute to the fabric of the society that we call the United States of America. Thank you so much.
我似乎喺度講下你嘅，因為有冇wisdom 啊？最好同大家講下。
我多謝大家嚟到參加呢個新書嘅發布會。咁呢本書咧面世咧就係講即係講一個新移民嘅故事，亦都係講呢個老年功夫嘅喺美國發展嘅故事。咁希望大家喜歡，多多指教。
Shows his appreciation and saying that by the book. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, once again, yes, thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you again in the future for other events. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to future collaboration with MOCA.
Can we bring it up?